Hey guys, so today's goal was kind of simple. I wanted to click on a unit and make a visual like a circle under the unit indicating that it has been selected. And if I click away, the visual is turned off. Also, if I click on another unit while already having a unit selected, the new unit becomes the selected unit now and the visual is now on the new unit, if that makes sense. So as we are going to have to use some controls and inputs, I wanted to use Unity's new input action system. So right now, if I go create and search through this, scroll through this, I can't find the input actions. So for that, I gotta go to Windows Package Manager, and this because I already searched it up. If it is in project for you, you just need to change it to Unity registry and search here for input system and hit install. So for the installation to happen, it'll give you a prompt to restart Unity. And once it's all done, if you go create and go down here, you can see the input actions. So I don't want the input actions to be in the unit folder, so I'm just gonna move it to here inside the projects. So let's rename it to, let's call it Caricat controls dot input actions. And if I go here, I can add action maps. So let's rename it to gameplay. So to select a unit, let's go actions. And if I change the name to select, and here let's use mouse left button. So I'm gonna add a pointer here for that. And how select works is it is an event. Did a click happen at this frame? Yes or no? That's basically it. But select doesn't tell you where the click happened. That's what pointer is for. It's a separate action that just tracks where the mouse is on screen all the time. So when a click fires, I grab the pointer's position, shoot a ray from the camera through that spot into the world, and whatever the ray hits tells me which tile was clicked. Sounds like a lot of steps, but it's basically the click says something happened, the pointer says here, and the raycast figures what's actually there. So if I go here, I need to change it action type to value and control type. I need to set it to vector 2 because tiles are basically 2D. They got an X and Y coordinate. And I'll set the path to position. And don't forget to click on save as it or have auto save on. And one final thing you got to do is click on the input action and in the inspector select generate C# class and hit apply. Unity's new input system separates input into two pieces, a data file where you define actions like select and pointer, and a code file that lets you use those actions in your scripts. The reason for the split is flexibility. The data isn't tied to a specific device. You can bind, say, select to a mouse button today and maybe later come back and add gamepad button or a touch screen tab, all without changing any of your code. The code just asks was select pressed and the data file answers whatever the input came from. Now, instead of letting the rest of my game talk to Unity's input system directly, I wrote a small wrapper class called input services. The idea is to keep infrastructure hidden behind a clean interface. My game logic doesn't need to know that Unity has a whole input system underneath. It just asks, was the mouse clicked? Let me walk through it real quick because there are a few patterns in here worth knowing. Here we got input service instance. This is a singleton, basically just a globally accessible reference to one input service in the scene. Means I don't have to drag references around to every script that needs input. Anywhere in my game, I can just write input services dot instance and grab it. And here in Awake, I do the singleton setup if an instance already exists and if it is not me, I destroy myself. That prevents accidentally running two of these. Otherwise, I claim the role and create a auto-generated controls. The two public properties here, select press this frame and pointer position. These are expression bodied properties. The Arrow syntax means every time someone reads this, run this expression. So when my grid manager asks was select pressed, it's calling Unity's input system at that exact moment, not reading a cache value. And here, the on enable and on disable are Unity's uh, lifecycle hooks. When this game object turns on, I enable the gameplay action map so it starts listening. When it turns off, I disable it. Easy thing to forget. And if you don't enable it, nothing will fire. So real quick on how the mouse click becomes a tile. The mouse pointer on your screen is on a 2D space while the tiles are in a 3D world space. So if I pass a ray from the camera passing through the mouse position and going and hitting the collider of a tile. Oh yeah, so the tile prefab should have a box collider or a mesh collider on it, otherwise this won't work. So when it hits the collider, it returns a 3D world position, and then I just convert that into the nearest grid coordinates. And that's kind of what happens here. And when I get the grid position, I pass it on to handle tile click. And this is kind of how handle tile click works. If I click on a space where there is no tile, I call deselect, which just deselects the previously selected unit if there was any. So to handle tile click, it's not that simple as it sounds because there are actually like 5 different cases happening. Click on a unit when nothing is selected, then the unit gets selected. Click on the same unit twice, then it gets deselected. And if I click on a different unit, the selection switches. Click on an empty tile in range. That's like a move command, which I would need to develop later. And if I click on a tile that is out of range or click somewhere else on the screen, then again I deselect. And this is kind of how handle tile click works. If I click on a space where there is no tile, I call deselect, which just deselects the previously selected unit if there was any. If I click on a unit twice in a row, again I deselect that unit. If I click on a unit that wasn't selected before, then that unit gets selected. And here, if I have a unit selected and I'm clicking on a tile, then I need to check if that tile is in range of the character's movement. If it is, then I need to write a code in the future for the character to move there, or maybe a prompt asking if you want to move there. But for now, we do nothing. If the tile is out of the range of the unit, we deselect the unit. And the range is from uh, the unit's movement range. And the way I show how a unit is selected or deselected is by having a circle under the unit. I made the capsules into prefabs. I added these quads, which is kind of a green circle, just a sprite that I made, and it's just a circle, green circle, and I added it into materials base map, and I set surface type to transparent. That's all it is. And in the capsule, I need to uncheck this so that it doesn't automatically appear when I hit play. And I click on a unit or a tile with a unit. The visual for selection is turned on for that unit. And if I click a different unit, visual for that unit gets turned on and the previous red unit is now off. And now if I click on a space outside the grid, visual goes away again. And what else? If I click on a tile that is within range of the unit like this, I get a message here in the console saying would move Byleth to tile coordinates. If you didn't know, Byleth is like the main character from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Also, if I click on a tile that is like out of range for the unit, the selection goes off again. An important thing to remember here is make sure that the tile prefab has a mesh collider or a box collider on it. So one of the problem I kind of got stuck with today was having tile data belong to mono behavior. Was kind of pretty obvious, but I don't know why I missed that and spent a lot of time figuring out why my click and select isn't working. Tile data is just a bag of data, a position, an occupant, and maybe a terrain type. It's not a thing that lives on a game object, but I was kind of treating it like one. Unity was refusing to let me create it, and so every single tile in my dictionary was kind of silently broken. Fix was just remove the mono behavior I had here. So that's kind of it, guys. Thank you. Bye.